Now to the southern border, where the U.S. government is ramping up its covert aerial surveillance program in an effort to win the war against Mexican drug cartels. The New York Times reporting the CIA has expanded secret drone flights over Mexico in an effort to find fentanyl labs. NewsNation's border correspondent Allie Bradley is live for us. So, Allie, how does all of this work?
Yeah, hey, Nicole. So these Reaper drones are on the hunt right now in Mexico. They're covertly looking for these criminal cartel organizations and their fentanyl labs. So what we know right now is that the president has promised to designate them as terrorists. But right now, that is still something that they are mulling over and dealing with. They have not signed that executive order. So we're seeing these kind of surveillance drones, if you will, crossing that international airspace. And they're big. They're MQ-9 Reaper drones. And they're carrying out these stealth missions. And they're not currently armed, but they can actually carry payloads for precision strikes. This is a move, though, that has been used by the U.S. to target suspected terrorists in other countries. We're talking about Syria and Iraq. But the CIA has not been authorized to use the drones to take lethal action. Officials told the New York Times that they do not envision the drones conducting airstrikes over in Mexico. For now, CIA officers in Mexico are passing information that is being collected by these drones to officials in Mexico. They are adamant about finding these fentanyl labs, which apparently emit chemicals. And that's what makes them easier to find from the air and why they're using these drones. A source familiar with the matter told one news outlet that these recent flights were communicated to Congress using a notification reserved for new or updated covert programs that the CIA intends to conceal or deny. This, of course, signals an escalation. The CIA has reportedly flown surveillance drones to hunt cartels inside Mexico under at least one small program that partnered with Mexican authorities. But the New York Times reports that this began as a secret program under the Biden administration. So this isn't necessarily brand new. The more recent flights, though, were communicated to Congress by the Trump administration using a particular notification, like I said, is reserved for these programs. But the issue is the notifications made no mention of Mexican partners. Again, this signals that escalation across the border. So we talked with Darren Gobb. He is a geopolitical strategist and a U.S. Army veteran, and he's a former Black Hawk pilot. He talks about the CIA's covert drone missions in Mexico. Take a listen.
Can't really get into specifically too much, but let's just say that a lot of that stuff was in some ways perfected during our counterinsurgency fights and things overseas, Afghanistan and Iraq and elsewhere. So if they are used along our side of the border, they can see quite a bit. That would be very useful for the intelligence community to put together a picture of what's happening.
So the Mexican government has taken some steps to address what's going on the other side of the border. Of course, fentanyl production. We know that there are a lot fewer people crossing the border illegally right now. We know that they're tamping down on some of those fentanyl labs, but they're also deploying up to 10,000 troops along their northern border, which, of course, Nicole, is our southern border. So Mexico is trying to do its part, but, of course, the Trump administration wants them to do more when it comes to the fight against fentanyl. Nicole.
All right, so, Allie, let's talk about your report yesterday that Border Patrol agents were stopping the use of body cameras because of possible detection by criminals. But it sounds like this move is now being reversed.
Yeah, so we actually reported just yesterday that these body cameras were being, the agents were being told to stand down from using these in the field effective immediately. Now, that order came out on Friday that alerted Border Patrol agents and other law enforcement across the nation that this could potentially be an issue. And one of the biggest problems with it was that it could potentially, the radio frequency being emitted from these body-worn cameras could potentially trip off improvised explosive devices. But there were also social media posts circulating that they could actually tap into these systems in a certain way and actually track these agents and officers while they're out in the field, of course, making the user, the agent, more vulnerable and allowing the bad guy essentially to avoid those law enforcement individuals. So obviously an issue there. But Nicole, I did reach out to Axon, who is a manufacturer. I also reached out to CBP to find out what was the outcome of that investigation. What were the solutions there? What did they do? Or how are they making sure that the agents using these cameras are safe, and also so that the civilians around are safe as well, and that they're being held accountable when they're out there with these agents and officers? So have not heard back yet, Nicole, but of course we will report anything that we learn.
All right. Allie Bradley live there in Del Rio, Texas. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.